Hello and welcome to Dingoes Ate My Podcast. I'm Paul,
And I'm Dave.
and this week we'll be discussing the episode Spin the Bottle. Okay, so this episode originally aired November 10th, 2002, attracting approximately 3.63 million viewers. It was also written and directed by Joss Whedon, which is the only episode that he does this season, actually.
On the one on the one hand, I'm a little surprised that he would do an episode like this, but then also on the other hand, I'm totally not surprised that he would come up with this idea.
No, this is very much like a. Look, his episodes have two tones. As much as I
Yes, and
love.
one of those particular tones is him dressing up in an outfit and doing silly dances.
Well, no, they're either funny or they're soul crushing.
Yes.
It's one or the other. You know, he did little
Hopefully
episodes
not
like
all in one fill or one in one long line. There's a bit of switching between the two.
because I mean he wrote and directed the episode Hush, or that little episode that we don't speak of called The Body, and then also
Yes,
did Once More with Feeling. So you know, those are all pretty different.
indeed.
Anyway, let us speak about the number one film in America this week. Dave, do you have any idea what it would be?
Let's see.
I basically gave you the answer last week, so.
Well, that's true. It was the thought of it would supposedly might have been dropped down, but then I also have to remember it was the Santa Claus 2.
So what do you think the answer? What's your answer?
I'll just go with the safest bet since I can't think of anything else to kind of fill the void. Go with the Santa Claus 2.
No, no, it's not. If you remember last week, the number one song in America was "Lose Yourself" by Eminem. Do you want to change your
Oh,
answer?
that's true. Well, that's true.
And I told you that would spoil what the number one movie in America was. Now,
Supposedly, yes, but it's also a case of I'm not too much of a moviegoer, so there's a good chance I probably never saw the movie in question.
okay, it was a little movie called 8 Mile.
Yes, yes, that
Okay,
makes sense.
yes, with just over $51 million at the box office on its opening weekend.
Yeah.
It did that. That was a good opening weekend for 2002.
Again, understandable, but still kind of a marvelous case of I didn't see it.
Oh, I didn't see it in theaters either, but it's a fine movie. I mean, it's nothing incredible. Let's move on to video games.
Indeed.
So November 10th, the day the episode aired, if you had a PS2, you could pick up NHL 2K3.
Neat.
Also, if you had a PS2 on the same day, you could go to the store and pick up Shinobi.
Yes, because that was the thing.
It was, and we haven't had a Shinobi game, I feel like, in a long time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which I also want to make sure that people aren't confusing this with like um, the Shinobi games on the fuck, what was that Sega console? Genesis. It's not
Ah,
that one.
yes.
It's not a re-release of that. It was a new game that came out that Sega made. And let's just quickly see when was. Oh yeah, the last Shinobi game we got was Shinobi 3D in 2011, and I'm guessing that was a phone.
Yeah.
Oh, that was a 3DS game. So bring Shinobi
Yeah.
back, Sega. That would be good.
Yeah, that's the thing. Although it might be a case of it might get mixed in with other particular genres, because I believe with this particular one, it kind of took the styles of Ninja Gaiden slash Devil May Cry slash and hackers.
That from the screenshots, that looks accurate. Yeah, I've never played this. I'm just looking at the screenshots and I'm like, yeah, it looks like a Devil May Cry kind of thing.
But then, of course, possibly for the best for you, because you probably walk 3 steps and die.
Yeah, I've tried playing the old Shinobi games and I get very annoyed very quickly. Anyway,
Yes.
also on November 10th, if you had a GameCube, you weren't being left out because you could go to the store and pick up. Oh my god. Sonic Mega Collection.
The Sonic games.
So for those of you who
Which Sonic game? All the Sonic games.
So for those of you who don't know, this GameCube disc has Sonic 1, 2, 3, Sonic and Knuckles, 3D Blast, Spinball, Mean Bean Machine, and then there's a bunch of other unlockable games, such as Blue Sphere, Knuckles and Sonic 2, Sonic 3 and Knuckles, Flicky, Rystar, The Ooze, and Comic Zone.
Indeed.
So you got a lot of really good stuff for your money.
Indeed.
Um, yeah, it's a great disc, and if you don't have it, you should go find a copy. Because I'm not even like a big Sonic fan, but even I got my money's worth out of that.
Man, I'm gonna have to go on the hunt again because that's one of the things not in my collection.
Oh my god. Do you have the. Okay, here's the thing. Did you ever pick up the sequel one?
Not the sequel one. I did have the one in the past, but particular store deals with the case of you could trade in games. Pretty good offer.
Understandable, because on the GameCube they also released another collection, and I can't remember what it was called now. Because there was Mega Collection, and then there was another one that came out like a year or two later. And I don't remember what it was called right now.
Man,
I will find it and probably yell later.
radios.
But moving along, on November 11th, oh my god, did we get a bunch of games that day? If you had a Game Boy Advance, you could pick up Godzilla Domination, which looks like
Yes,
it was
because Godzilla.
which looks like it was a GBA port of Destroy All Monsters Melee.
Because of course, you need to destroy all the things as Godzilla. Who wouldn't find that fun?
Have you played Destroy All Monsters?
Yes,
Okay, good. I was gonna play because that game is great.
it is. It's a typical fighter arena style sort of thing, but with giant monsters destroying a city.
Yes. The other Sonic collection was Sonic Gems collection.
Ah,
Anyway, okay, on November 11th, if you had an Xbox, okay, I'm gonna try to pronounce this, but I'm gonna probably fail.
radios.
Uh, Kakuto Chojin Back Alley Brawl. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, but it's some kind of fighting game that came out on the Xbox.
Supposed neat?
I
Yeah, I'm not familiar with it.
I've literally never heard of it. I'll put it in chat to see if it rings any bells for you, but it certainly doesn't for me.
Radios.
I don't even recognize the box art, so
Yeah, no, I got nothing.
Okay.
You'd think that you'd probably remember it with the gentleman's head. That is bald.
it's very bald, yes. Also, on November 11th, if you had an Xbox, you could pick up a little game called Mech Assault.
Neat. More mech things.
Yes, apparently 2002 was a very good year for mech games.
Yeah, it's not surprising.
November 11th, if you had a PS2, you could pick up Rally Fusion Race of Champions.
Oh, is it
Which
yay?
I guess if you wanted a rally racing game. Anyway, moving along. November 11th, on the PS2, you could pick up Disney's Treasure Planet,
Neat.
which, unfortunately, the game probably isn't good, but I've always heard the movie is really good, and I've never seen it.
The movie is neat.
I will have to take a look and find a copy of it. Also on November 11th, if you had a PS2, you could pick up Hot Wheels Velocity X.
Because yes, it's Hot Wheels.
But it's like a Hot Wheels like vehicular combat game.
Oh, okay.
And it didn't review terribly well, but I'm like, that's an interesting concept at least. And on the last game to come out November 11th on the PS2, The Simpsons Skateboarding.
Oh dear God.
Why is it that like all of these Simpsons games that are like in theory should be a home run for me always end up sucking?
It's just the case of the particular programming and other sorts of stuff was not really looked into. It was just the case of get the Simpson characters in there. Do they look good and do they manage to fit on a skateboard?
Because like here we have The Simpsons skateboarding, which is crap. The year prior we had The Simpsons wrestling, which is notoriously crap. Why
Which
can't we?
must be an atrocity for you.
Oh my! It's my like two of my favorite things put together and then just shat on.
So sad.
It is. Why can't we just get good Simpsons games?
They supposedly try, but they're supposedly too distracted by all the other money they get from the other bits of the franchise.
When's the last time we got a Simpsons game? Was it the PS3?
The one that I'm thinking of was probably just that mobile one.
Oh, there was. Yeah, that the I mean like a console game though, like an actual.
Ugh, even then, the only other one that I can supposedly think of would probably be the Simpsons game around the Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, and Wii era.
Yeah, I was gonna say like, is that the most recent one? Okay, so the Simpsons game came out. Yeah, that was the 360 PS3. Minutes to Meltdown, that was mobile. Itchy and Scratchy Land, that was mobile. Simpsons Arcade came to mobile. Tapped Out, obviously mobile. And yeah, so that's the last console game was 2007.
Oh,
Why? Why? Why?
most likely reasons, but yeah, it's kind of one of those things.
I want another Simpsons game. Although apparently they released the Simpsons Arcade as like, those Arcade One cabinets you can buy.
Yes.
They released one of those in 2021 with the
Neat.
Simpsons game. I would totally
Very
buy
good.
that. Anyway, moving along to November 12th. Okay. November 12th, if you had a GameCube, you could pick up a little game called Resident Evil Zero.
Yay. Though, eh, again, it's one of the particular Resident Evils, but it's kind of one of the ones that's like, it's there. It's functions as a Resident Evil, but also kind of the case of you could skip it. It's not terrible. And also the case that the main enemies are leeches and just like, ugh, oh god.
Yeah, it's one of those games that I've always wanted to play. I've just never gotten around to.
Well, just to make you feel better, it's one of the first Resident Evil games that has multiplayer.
Okay, that actually sounds pretty good. Also on
But
November.
not in a super great way.
Oh, okay. Also on November 12th, if you had a Game Boy Advance, you could pick up Tomb Raider: The Prophecy.
Supposed yay? I can't remember if this was one of the 3D Tomb Raiders that was like, it works. It's a typical action adventure sort of thing that kind of works. Or this was the one where they took on RPG concepts.
No, it's the Game Boy Advance one. It's more of like Prophecy. It gets. You know how on the Game Boy Advance they would try to do that like fake 3D isometric thing.
Jeez.
It's like that.
Ugh.
Okay. Also on November 12th, if you had a GameCube, you could pick up World Tour. That's not frustrating to
Supposed
say.
yay?
It was co-published by Crave and Vivendi. Oh my god, the shit factory. Um,
Ugh.
uh, it's a scooter game. I don't know what the point of this is.
Oh boy. Like the mild popularity of scooters around the time, it's like, let's make a video game about it.
Yeah. And for anybody who's offended by me calling Crave Entertainment a shit factory, I defy you to find 3 good games that they ever published.
And you can try, but congratulations, you're wrong.
Because I can spot one. Because they did publish Gex 3, and I'll give them that.
It
But
was at least an attempt.
yeah, that game's like at least half decent. But other than that, fuck them. Anyway, moving along. Oh my god. November 13th, if you had a GameCube or a PS2, you could pick up Reckless, the Yakuza missions.
Yay.
Um, Racing game, not very good. Came out on a couple of consoles.
Yeah.
November 14th, if you had a PS2, you could pick up FIFA Soccer 2003.
Because it's FIFA.
Yeah, and it probably sold incredibly well because those games always do.
Yeah.
Also on the 14th, if you had a Game Boy Advance, you could pick up Star Wars: The New Droid Army. I guess if you want to play a Star Wars game on the Game Boy Advance, go nuts.
Yeah.
November 15th, oh, this is going to be a big day. Unfortunately, we're starting off with something not great. On the Game Boy Advance, you could pick up a game called Disney Sports Skateboarding.
Because you know that was a thing.
Yeah, not crap at all. However,
Just kind of the case of Disney looked out onto the world and saw all the particular things that's going on. It's like, do we have one of those? It's like, no, sir, we don't. Make one. But, sir, make it now.
but, and I'm going to say this, Nintendo is about to save the week.
Radios.
So they released two games on the same day because apparently they just wanted to destroy everybody else's hopes and dreams. So, if you had a Nintendo GameCube, you could pick up a little game called Metroid Prime.
Oh, this was the day.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Also, if you had a Game Boy Advance, you could pick up a little game called Metroid Fusion.
Yes, this was the day. Oh
Yep.
god.
Yeah, this is the day where Metroid became a thing again.
Oh my god. This was the huge giant explosion. And people are kind of like, oh god. Metroid came 3D and it came to destroy the stuff.
Yes, unfortunately, Metroid would not be a thing for much longer.
Eh, it would be round, but it would be kind of cases of the big new shiny thing would kind of take over most things, and people would brush the other particular thing off to the side, despite the fact that that's where we're going, people. And oh god, when you get to where we are now, it's gotta get crazy.
I really should play Metroid Prime.
I can assist with that, possibly, if you have a GameCube around.
Of course, I have a GameCube.
Okay, then I can assist. I have the game with me.
Ah, very good. Very good, very good. Okay, I just gotta reposition because my knee hurts. Okay, moving on to November 16th. Unfortunately, we have to kind of. We went from a very high high to a very low low.
How low are we talking? Like lower than where Angel was at the start of this season?
Oh, by far. By far, good sir. We're going subterranean. On November 16th, if you had a PS2, I don't know if you'll even remember this game, but they released a little game on the PS2, and it would later come to. Actually, no, it came out on the Xbox on the same day, but it would later come to GameCube. A little game called BMX Triple X. Do you remember BMX
on the one
Triple
hand,
X?
that rings somewhat of a bell, but I'm not sure how bad that is.
I'll throw it in chat. See if you remember the box.
Well, I'm surprised that I don't really remember it that much. It's not super rememberable.
No, it's oh boy. It's certainly a game.
The advertisement in the corner of who worked on it doesn't give me so much hope.
Why? Because it's
Well,
published by Acclaim?
Because in some cases they've done some fairly good things, but it's also kind of the case of there's only the few good things that they've worked on, and even then that's kind of a bit of a stretch.
Yes, so I'm going to get into a little history about this game. So, were you familiar with the Dave Mirra BMX games?
Vaguely.
Okay, so they were basically like a competitor to the Tony Hawk games, right? And they were like pretty, like they weren't as good as the Tony Hawk games, but they were like, they were decent.
It was there. It was there. If you wanted something other than skateboarding, it was an option.
Yeah, they were pretty decent. This was supposed to be a Dave Mirra game, And then Dave Mira saw the prototype and was like, fuck no, you ain't putting my name on that shit.
Hmm.
Yes.
Hmm.
Let's just say Acclaim was like, how do we sell more copies of this game? Well, Grand Theft Auto is very successful. I know the answer. Tits. That'll sell more copies of our BMX game.
Hmm.
Yep. I promise there is not like entire videos of strippers in this game. Absolutely not. That would never happen.
That sounds ridiculous.
And there aren't missions in the game where you have to like drive like bike strippers to like clubs and stuff. That doesn't happen at all.
Again, that sounds ridiculous.
It's such a shite game, but I kind of love it because
Well,
it's
well, at the very least, they had the decency of actually rating the game properly.
yeah. Anyway, let us move on. There is one more game we have to talk about that also came out on November 16th on the PS2 and would soon follow up on the GameCube and Xbox. This little game called Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance.
Oddly intriguing, though I'm not too knowledgeable of any of the later Mortal Kombat games.
Yes, so Deadly Alliance was a pretty good one from memory. Um, yeah, it was very. I'm not going to say it changed the formula because they're all just fighting games, but I feel like this was one of the better ones that had come out in a while.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it wasn't one of the crappy, side games that they made. Anyway, let us move on to the actual episode because Lord knows we've been talking for over 20 minutes and it's just been mostly about video games.
And isn't terrible, but then also on the other hand, this is kind of a show about a TV show.
Yeah, well, there were a lot of video games. Oh, also, in case nobody could figure it out, Lose Yourself by Eminem is still the number one song in America this week.
Yeah, yeah,
And it will be for a while.
yeah.
All right, let's move on to Spin the Bottle. Okay. So. So after his rendition of The Way We Were, Lauren addresses an unseen lounge audience. In an attempt to restore Cordelia's memory, Lauren obtains a bottle containing a memory restoration spell, which Cordelia is eager to try. Wesley arrives, having been asked to help with the spell, and has an awkward meeting with Fred. She vaguely informs him that her mission was completed, as Gunn realizes that Wesley helped Fred try to kill her professor. When he confronts Wesley, he also threatens Wes to not pursue Fred, but Wes tries to dismiss the issue. Gunn asks what happened to Wesley. He reminds Gunn that I had my throat cut and all my friends abandoned me. Which, I mean, that did happen.
Yeah, kind of understandable, especially with all his new marvelous tech on his arms.
Yes. The gang hold hands in a circle around the bottle as it starts to spin. The spell disorients everyone. Lauren passes out, and the others stumble about the lobby of the hotel as if high. They've clearly never been high. Cordelia accidentally smashes the bottle with her boot. All present are mentally regressed to the age of 17. Cordelia, when she was the most popular girl at Sunnydale High. Wesley believes he's still a student at the Watchers Academy. Gunn is once again a rebellious street kid. Fred is transformed into a younger and insecure girl who likes marijuana. I always knew I liked Fred. And Angel has reverted to his teenage pre-vamp self, an Irishman named Liam. He was not sired until he was 26. While Liam wonders what happened to his Irish accent, Gunn and Wesley butt heads on plans. When Wesley tries to demonstrate his toughness with a karate demonstration, he unintentionally activates the stake weapon up his sleeve. Gunn and Fred find Lauren passed out behind the counter and are shocked to see a demon. Meanwhile, Connor saves a young woman from two vampires, and the woman offers her body in repayment, but only if he pays.
Taking that particular Avage. Again, I always get the name wrong for him, but if you're good at something, never do it for free.
Okay. Back at the hotel, Wesley duct tapes Lauren to his seat in the lobby while arguing with Gunn over whether to cut Lauren's head off or torture him for information. When Cordelia asks why they're not freaking out about wooden stakes or the sight of a green man with horns, Wesley and Gunn both reveal that vampires and demons are real, and they both have experience with them. Fred examines an unconscious Lauren, while Wesley shares his theory that they are being kept in the hotel with a vampire as a test. They all start to wonder why they don't look 17, and collectively decide to hunt for the vampire that will supposedly set them free once they kill it. Cordelia and Angel team up and go one way, while the other three head in the other direction. Angel struggles to adjust to the strange world that is hundreds of years beyond his life. He and Cordelia sit on a bed after apologizing for acting so womanish. Cordelia comforts him, and feeling his muscles, begins to flirt with him. Angel vamps out and realizes he is a vampire and he will be killed if the gang finds out. Okay. Angel tries to leave the hotel but panics when he spots the cars on the street and rushes back inside. As the group regathers in the lobby, Wesley introduces a new theory. The vampire may be one of them. He passes across around the group, and when it finally reaches Angel, he manages to hide his smoking hand until a distraction develops. Lauren wakes up, his memory unaffected, and identifies Angel as a vampire. Angel punches Lauren, knocking him out again. A fight breaks out between Angel, Wesley, and Gunn, and the girls run in separate directions. Angel catches Cordelia, who screams loudly, drawing lurking Connor out of the shadows. Angel rants to Connor about fathers as the two fight. While in the lobby, Lauren convinces Fred to release him, and he mixes together another concoction to restore their memories. After treating the others, Lauren puts a touch of the mixture on Cordy's tongue. She pauses and then runs off. Lauren finishes up his story at the lounge, describing what really happened was that she was stuck with a vision of a terrifying demon. Cordelia reveals to Angel that she remembers everything and confirms that before she lost her memory, she was in love with him. Lauren then walks off, and the camera reveals an empty lounge. So, what do we think of this episode?
Definitely an interesting enough concept, taking the story being told and then being played before us with commentary and whatnot. And of course, with Lauren doing it, it's always a fun time.
Yes, it's always good to have Lauren on screen. Lauren is fun.
It's one of those particular times that a memory loss story can go one way or the other way. And surprisingly enough, this went both ways because there were definitely those moments of cringe. Just, ugh. But
Yeah,
then it's also interesting seeing the case of everyone at that age, especially in Angel's case, experiencing the world in those sort of cases.
yeah, it's definitely kind of interesting that like this is kind of like the lighthearted episode we've got this year.
About as lighthearted that you should composedly manage with this,
Yeah,
especially with the interaction with Connor and Angel. Just the case of, man, fathers suck, and it's like you don't know the half of it.
yeah, there's some good stuff, and it's quite a fun episode. But again, I would argue that it's not like super important to the overall kind of season story.
Another one of those cases where it could have also been shrunken down to just a semi line of, so how did it go with Cordelia? Oh, she got her memory back. It's like, was it bad? It could have been better, but yeah, we have some stuff that we'll most likely have to deal with.
Yeah, so it's a good episode, but I just don't think it's like super important. Okay, so let us talk about some international titles for this episode. So we have a bunch for this one. Unfortunately, most of them are spin the bottle, but we'll get into a few that
Most
aren't.
understandable.
Yeah, yeah. So in French, it translates as the magic bottle.
Mm.
In Spain, Spanish, and in Russian, it translates just as bottle.
Because when all else fails, you just sort of hand it out, and it's like, well, what's the episode? Bottle.
In Brazilian Portuguese, it translates as spinning the bottle. And
Which
in
technically didn't happen. The bottle spun itself.
this is true. And in Latin American Spanish, it translates as the spell of the bottle.
Because it was also a thing. It was what it was inside the bottle.
Yes. So, if there's nothing else about this episode, next week we'll be watching a
There
super.
was one last quick little thing to mention that
Oh,
kind
okay.
of popped into my head after watching this episode that came back, which was the case of, man, I really wish that this was actually more like the Cowboy Bebop part of the episode. Just kind of experiencing their reactions to the effects of the spell in the drunken state. It's like, that would have been funny.
Yeah, no, fair enough. That I can't argue with that. Now, next week. You know how you got just like a really fun episode and it was pretty lighthearted and it was just kind of a good time?
Because we give you the light stuff to get ready for the terrible disaster that's going to be coming.
So, next week's episode is called Apocalypse Nowish.
What's what's worse than an apocalypse? An apocalypse that can't make up its mind of when it happens.
And the only thing I'm going to tell you about this episode is Cordelia's apocalyptic nightmares become a reality as a powerful demon emerges in LA.
Hooray!
Yep.
Because that's the exact thing Ellie needs at that time.
Oh, you have no idea. It's going to be good. Well, I mean, yeah, it's going to be good. So, until next time, I'm Paul.
And I'm Dave.